Close your eyes now and let your breathing slow. Feel your body settling into this comfortable space. Tonight, we're going on a gentle journey through the world of wine. But there's nothing you need to remember, nothing you need to learn. Just let the words wash over you like a warm evening breeze. We'll drift through ancient vineyards, explore quiet cellars, and discover stories that have been unfolding for thousands of years. Let your mind wander. Let your thoughts soften. Tonight, you can simply listen and rest, and perhaps dream of distant hillsides where grapes grow slowly in the sun. Take another deep breath and let our journey begin. Picture yourself walking through a misty landscape 6,000 years ago in what we now call Georgia. The morning sun filters through ancient trees, and you can smell something sweet and earthy in the air. Here, in this quiet valley, humans are discovering something remarkable. They've learned that grapes, left in clay vessels, transform into something magical, something that brings people together, that makes celebrations more joyful, that connects them to something greater than themselves. This is where wine begins its long journey through human history. From these simple clay pots, wine will travel across continents, through empires, into temples and palaces, into the homes of ordinary people. The ancient Egyptians will pour it for their pharaohs. The Greeks will honor Dionysus with festivals of wine and music, dancing late into warm Mediterranean nights. Christians will find in wine the sacred symbol of communion, sharing it in quiet reverence, remembering, connecting. Wine becomes more than a drink. It becomes the thread that weaves through human gatherings, through our need to celebrate, to mourn, to mark the moments that matter most. And all of this begins here, in this misty valley, with grapes slowly fermenting in the quiet darkness. Imagine the bustling ports of ancient Rome. Ships arrive daily, their hulls heavy with amphorae. These large clay vessels, sealed with cork and wax, hold liquid gold from distant vineyards. Wine has become the currency of empires. Merchants calculate profits in gallons. Entire regions shape their futures around grapevines. The Mediterranean coastline transforms into a network of vineyards, each hillside a potential fortune. Roman soldiers receive wine as part of their rations. It travels with armies, crosses borders, builds relationships between nations. Trade routes stretch like spiderwebs across the known world, all carrying this precious cargo. In Gaul, Germanic tribes learn viticulture from Roman settlers. Techniques pass from hand to hand, generation to generation. Wine production spreads northward, adapting to new climates, new soils, new challenges. The economic impact ripples outward. Coopers craft barrels, glassmakers blow bottles, shipbuilders design vessels specifically for wine transport. Entire industries bloom around this single beverage, creating jobs, supporting families, building communities. And in quiet moments, merchants taste their wares by lamplight, savoring the flavors that have traveled so far. Each sip carries the story of a place, a season, a people's dedication to their craft. The ancient economy flows like wine itself, rich and complex, connecting distant lands through this shared appreciation for fermented grapes. Walk now through monastery gardens in medieval Europe, where monks in rough brown robes tend their vines with patient devotion. The morning mist clings to the ground, and you can hear the soft scraping of hose against earth. These religious communities become libraries of knowledge, preserving not just prayers and manuscripts, but the secrets of soil and season. They notice how vines respond to different treatments, how grape clusters develop under varying conditions. A monk kneels beside a struggling vine, examining the leaves, feeling the earth between his fingers. Over decades of observation, they learn that certain soils drain better, that south-facing slopes capture more sun, that pruning at specific times yields better fruit. This is where viticulture becomes science, where careful record-keeping reveals patterns, where experimentation leads to understanding. The monks' detailed notes become the foundation for agricultural advancement. And then comes Louis Pasteur, centuries later, puzzling over why some wines spoil while others age gracefully. He peers through his microscope at samples, watching tiny organisms dance in the light. His quest to understand wine fermentation unlocks secrets of the microscopic world. From wine comes the knowledge of pasteurization, protecting not just grape juice, but milk, beer, countless foods that sustain human life. The patient observations in ancient vineyards lead to breakthroughs that save lives. Science grows like a vine, reaching toward light, branching into new discoveries, all rooted in humanity's desire to understand this transformation from grape to wine. The monastery bells ring softly in the distance, calling the monks to evening prayer, their work in the vineyards complete for another day. Picture an elegant Renaissance salon, where nobles gather around polished tables. Candlelight dances across crystal goblets filled with deep red wine. The conversation flows as smoothly as the vintage they're sharing. Wine has become a language of sophistication, a symbol of refinement and social status. Wealthy merchants and aristocrats compete to serve the finest bottles, to display their knowledge of distant regions and rare harvests. A duchess raises her glass, studying the color in the flickering light. She speaks knowledgeably of harvests and regions, impressing her guests with her refined palate. Around the table, alliances form. Business deals take shape. marriages are arranged, all while wine facilitates the social connections. The wine itself tells stories. Each bottle represents months of careful tending, hands that pruned and picked, traditions passed through generations. The glass connects the elegant salon to humble village winemakers, bridging worlds of privilege and labor. Servants move quietly through the shadows, refilling glasses, ensuring the evening flows without interruption. The wine loosens tongues, encourages confidences, creates the warm atmosphere where important decisions feel natural, comfortable. Outside, ordinary people gather in taverns, sharing simpler wines, but experiencing the same human connection, the same loosening of reserve, the same joy in companionship. Wine democracy exists at every level of society. In both palace and tavern, wine serves its ancient purpose, bringing people together, creating community, facilitating the bonds that hold society together, one glass at a time. Listen to the whisper of ancient words as a poet recites verses praising wine's golden glow. His voice carries across a Greek amphitheater where listeners lean forward, captivated by descriptions of harvest festivals and flowing cups. Wine has become inspiration itself. Writers find in it the perfect metaphor for life's complexity, for joy and sorrow intermingled, for the bittersweet nature of human experience. Poets reach for wine imagery when they want to capture intensity, passion, the full richness of feeling. In artists' workshops, painters mix pigments while sipping from clay cups. Their brushes capture scenes of grape harvests, of bacchanalian celebrations, of quiet moments where wine brings peace. The red wine stains their fingers, becomes part of their creative process. Ancient pottery tells wine's visual story. Amphorae decorated with vine motifs, cups painted with scenes of pressing grapes, mosaics showing the wine god surrounded by dancing figures. Every civilization that discovers wine wants to celebrate it in art. Sculptors carve grape clusters into marble. Architects incorporate vine motifs into their designs. Wine becomes woven into the visual language of beauty, a symbol recognized across cultures and centuries. Folk songs carry wine stories to people who cannot read. Melodies passed from parent to child, keeping alive the memory of good harvests, of celebrations, of communities gathering to share what the earth has provided. The artistic legacy grows like an ancient vine, stretching across continents, branching into new forms, but always returning to the same root, the human experience of transformation, of simple fruit becoming something transcendent. Envision the perfect morning for harvest. The sun rises over rolling hills, casting long shadows between the vine rows. Dew sparkles on grape clusters, and the air carries the sweet scent of ripe fruit. Workers move quietly through the vineyard, their experienced hands testing berries, feeling for the exact moment of readiness. This timing cannot be rushed, cannot be delayed. It must be precisely right, when sugar and acid exist in perfect balance. Some choose to harvest by hand, carefully selecting only the best clusters, leaving behind fruit that hasn't reached perfection. Their fingers work quickly but gently, respecting the fruit that has grown through spring rains and summer heat. Others use machines that rumble slowly through the rows, efficiently gathering large volumes. Each approach serves its purpose. Each reflects different priorities, different wine styles being born. The timing of this harvest will echo in every glass months or years later. Pick too early and the wine will be sharp, acidic, lacking the warmth of full ripeness. Pick too late and sugar overwhelms, creating wine that is cloying, unbalanced. Weather watches become critical. A storm approaching means urgent decisions. Rush to harvest or risk losing the year's work. The vineyard manager checks the sky constantly, reading clouds like ancient sailors read the sea. As baskets fill with grapes, the next phase of wine's journey begins. From vine to crush, from grape to juice, each step deliberate, each choice shaping what the wine will become. The harvest moon rises, blessing another year's work, another chance to capture sunshine and rain in liquid form. Step into the winery as the harvest arrives. Trucks unload bins of freshly picked grapes, and the air fills with the intense aroma of ripe fruit. Workers move with practiced efficiency, beginning the ancient transformation. For red wines, the grapes move to the crusher, where mechanical fingers break the skins, releasing purple juice that stains everything it touches. The must, this mixture of juice, skins, and seeds, begins its journey toward becoming wine. The skins stay with the juice, slowly releasing their color, their tannins, their complex flavors. Like tea steeping, but over days instead of minutes. Each hour the color deepens, the flavors intensify. White wine grapes follow a different path, quickly pressed to separate juice from skin, preserving the delicate, pale character, avoiding the tannins that would make the wine harsh. The juice runs clear and bright, ready for its own transformation. Now comes the magic of fermentation. Yeast, whether wild from the grape skins or carefully selected by the winemaker, begins converting sugar into alcohol. The tanks bubble and foam, alive with microscopic activity. Temperature becomes crucial. Cool fermentation preserves delicate aromas, while warmth encourages deeper extraction. The winemaker monitors constantly, adjusting, guiding, but never forcing, respecting the natural process. In the cellar's quiet corners, barrels rest in rows, aging wines from previous harvests, their contents slowly evolving, gaining complexity, while new wines begin their own patient journey toward maturity. The cycle continues, crush to fermentation to aging, each wine finding its own pace, its own expression of the grapes that gave it life. Imagine standing in an ancient vineyard at dawn, mist rising from the valley floor. As the sun climbs higher, you begin to understand why this exact spot produces exceptional wine. This is terroir, the soul of place captured in liquid form. Beneath your feet, limestone bedrock holds the secrets. These rocks, formed over millions of years, now feed the vines above. Their calcium-rich composition creates wine with distinctive minerality, with precise acidity that makes your mouth water. The soil tells its story through the grapes. Clay holds moisture during dry spells, ensuring steady growth. Sandy soils drain quickly, stressing vines just enough to concentrate flavors. Each soil type whispers different instructions to the roots reaching deep below. Feel the morning breeze flowing down from the mountains. This air circulation prevents fungal diseases, keeps the grapes healthy. The afternoon sun warms the south-facing slope, while cool evening air preserves acidity. These daily rhythms shape every berry. A vineyard worker points to a section of vines growing differently. This patch is always earlier, she explains. The soil drains faster here. Even within a single vineyard, terroir creates variation. Microclimates within microclimates. The concept travels beyond France, to hillsides in California, valleys in Chile, slopes in New Zealand. Each place offers its unique fingerprint, its particular combination of soil, climate, and exposure. No two locations produce identical wine, even with identical grapes. Some winemakers spend decades learning to read their terroir, understanding how each season's weather interacts with their specific place. Others travel the world, seeking the perfect match between grape variety and site. In every glass, terroir expresses itself, the taste of a place, the character of specific earth, captured and preserved, ready to transport you back to that misty dawn among the vines. Picture the microscopic world awakening in a tank of grape juice. Billions of tiny yeast cells beginning their feast. Each one a biological engine converting sugar into alcohol and carbon dioxide. This is where wine truly begins. Saccharomyces cerevisiae, the wine yeast, works tirelessly, consuming natural grape sugars, producing not just alcohol, but hundreds of flavor compounds. Each strain of yeast creates different aromatics, like individual chefs, each with their signature style. Some winemakers trust wild yeasts, the native microorganisms living on grape skins. These create unpredictable, sometimes magical results. Like jazz musicians improvising, wild yeasts can surprise with complex, unique flavors. But they can also create problems: stuck fermentations, off flavors. Others select cultured yeasts, choosing strains like selecting instruments for an orchestra. This yeast enhances tropical fruit flavors. That one emphasizes spice notes. Another works best at cool temperatures, preserving delicate aromatics. Temperature controls the yeast's activity. Cool fermentations proceed slowly, preserving bright, fresh flavors. Warm fermentations work quickly, extracting more color and tannins from red grape skins. The winemaker adjusts temperature like a conductor controlling tempo. As fermentation ends, the yeast cells die and settle. But their work continues. In a process called autolysis, dead yeast cells break down, releasing proteins and amino acids. These create creamy textures, nutty flavors, the complexity found in aged champagne and premium white wines. Modern science discovers new yeast strains, some engineered for specific purposes. Low alcohol yeasts for lighter wines, heat-resistant strains for challenging climates. The ancient art meets cutting-edge biotechnology. In the quiet darkness of the cellar, yeast continues its patient work, transforming simple grape juice into something worthy of celebration. One microscopic moment at a time. Follow the wine into the cool darkness of the aging cellar, where time itself becomes an ingredient. Rows of oak barrels rest in cathedral-like silence, each one containing wine that will slowly transform over months or years. The oak breathes with the wine, allowing tiny amounts of oxygen to seep through the wood. This gentle oxidation softens harsh tannins, integrates flavors, creates harmony where once there was youth and discord. Like meditation, the process cannot be hurried. Each barrel tells its own story. American oak imparts vanilla and coconut notes. French oak adds subtle spice and elegance. The degree of toasting during barrel making creates different flavors. Light toast preserves the wood's natural character. Heavy toast creates caramel and coffee notes. Some wines age in neutral vessels, stainless steel tanks or old barrels that no longer contribute wood flavors. Here, the wine evolves purely on its own. Fruit flavors slowly concentrating, acids and tannins finding balance through time alone. In the bottle, another type of aging begins. Without oxygen, different chemical reactions occur. Primary fruit flavors give way to secondary complexity. Fresh berry becomes dried fruit, becomes earth and leather. Young wines full of potential slowly reveal their true character. Temperature and humidity matter deeply. Too warm, and aging accelerates unpredictably. Too dry, and corks shrink, allowing unwanted oxidation. The cellar master monitors conditions constantly, protecting these sleeping wines. Some bottles age for decades, slowly developing the tertiary flavors that collectors treasure. Mushroom and truffle notes, tobacco and cedar. The bright enthusiasm of youth transforms into the wisdom of age. In the darkness, wines dream their way toward perfection, each day bringing subtle changes, each year revealing new dimensions of flavor and aroma. Feel the earth warming under your feet as climate patterns shift around the world. Vineyards that have produced wine for centuries now face temperatures they've never experienced. Harvest dates that once marked late September creep earlier into August. The vines respond to heat stress by ripening faster. Sugar levels climb while acidity drops, creating wines that taste different from their historical character. Winemakers who learned their craft from parents and grandparents must now adapt to conditions their ancestors never faced. In Burgundy, Pinot Noir grapes struggle with heat waves that would have been unimaginable 50 years ago. Vintners install shade cloth, adjust pruning techniques, anything to protect their delicate fruit. The wine that built the region's reputation becomes harder to achieve. Rain patterns change too, bringing drought to Mediterranean regions, flooding to areas that once enjoyed moderate rainfall. Vineyard managers install drip irrigation systems, select drought-resistant rootstocks, plant cover crops to retain moisture. But adaptation creates opportunity. England now produces world-class sparkling wine, as rising temperatures make grape growing viable in regions once too cool. New Zealand expands into higher altitudes. Chile explores coastal areas previously too cold for viticulture. Scientists work in university laboratories, developing grape varieties better suited to changing conditions. Cross-breeding programs seek heat tolerance, disease resistance, earlier ripening characteristics. The ancient practice of viticulture embraces modern biotechnology. Some producers relocate entirely, moving to higher elevations, seeking cooler temperatures and longer growing seasons. Others plant different grape varieties, abandoning traditional choices for heat-tolerant alternatives. In tasting rooms around the world, wine lovers sample bottles that represent this new reality. Familiar regions producing unfamiliar styles. New regions creating exciting discoveries. Climate change challenges wine, but human ingenuity responds, finding ways to preserve the art while adapting to new realities. Drift now to the monastery cellars, where Brother Thomas tends the ancient casks. His order has been making wine here for 800 years, each generation learning from the last, preserving traditions while slowly improving techniques. The wooden vats tell stories of countless harvests, their interiors stained deep purple from decades of wine aging. The brother runs his hand along the smooth wood, feeling for any signs of damage, any indication that these vessels need repair. Modern wineries use precise temperature control, computer-monitored fermentation, laboratory analysis of every stage. But here, tradition guides decisions. The brothers taste, observe, trust senses honed through centuries of experience. Yet even traditional producers embrace some innovations. Gentle pneumatic presses replace ancient wooden beam presses. Stainless steel tanks resist contamination better than old wooden vessels. Science supports tradition without replacing it. The wine reflects this balance, possessing the complexity that comes from unhurried aging, the character imparted by specific terroir, the consistency maintained through careful selection of techniques, old methods and new knowledge working together. A young novice learns by observing, watching how the elder brother reads the signs of fermentation, how he determines the perfect moment for pressing, when to rack the wine from one vessel to another. Knowledge passed hand to hand, heart to heart. In the tasting room, visitors sample wines that connect them to centuries of craftsmanship. Each bottle a bridge between past and present, between tradition and innovation, between the sacred and the everyday. The bells ring for evening prayer. The brothers gather in their chapel, giving thanks for another day of transforming grapes into wine, continuing work that began with medieval monks, that will continue long after they are gone. Watch the morning sun illuminate a Burgundy vineyard, where each small plot has its own name, its own reputation, its own price per bottle. This is where terroir becomes legal doctrine, where geography becomes destiny. The Appellation d'origine contrôlée system maps every vine, defining not just boundaries but acceptable grape varieties, planting densities, harvesting methods. Even the maximum yield per hectare is regulated, ensuring that quality supersedes quantity. A vintner walks the border between two appellations. On one side, his grapes will become village-level Burgundy. On the other, Premier Cru, commanding 3 times the price. The soil differs little, but centuries of observation have identified subtle distinctions, micro-terroirs that produce distinct wine characters. These classification systems protect both producers and consumers, guaranteeing that wine labeled Chablis actually comes from Chablis. that it's made from Chardonnay grapes, that it reflects the specific terroir of that place. The laws preserve authenticity in an increasingly global marketplace. Other regions develop their own systems. Italy's DOC classifications, Spain's Denominaciones de Origen, America's American viticultural areas. Each attempts to capture the relationship between place and wine, to protect regional identity. The classifications create economic value too. Wines from prestigious appellations command premium prices, supporting local economies, encouraging careful viticulture, maintaining landscapes that have been shaped by centuries of grape growing. Critics argue that regulations can limit innovation, prevent experimentation with new grape varieties or techniques. But supporters maintain that these laws preserve diversity, protecting small regional producers from industrial competition. In the marketplace, consumers learn to read labels, understanding that appellation indicates not just origin, but style, tradition, quality standards maintained across generations. The geography of wine becomes a language of quality and authenticity. Picture the laboratory where Dr. Sarah Chen examines grape samples under powerful microscopes. She's part of a new generation of scientists working to understand wine at the molecular level, seeking knowledge that could revolutionize this ancient craft. Her research focuses on tannin molecules, those compounds that create wine's structure and aging potential. Through spectroscopy and chromatography, she maps exactly how tannins change during fermentation, aging, how they interact with other wine components. In another lab, researchers study yeast genetics, sequencing DNA to understand which genes control flavor production. They've discovered that small genetic variations can dramatically affect a wine's aroma profile, leading to development of custom yeast strains for specific styles. Computer models now predict wine quality based on weather data, soil analysis, grape chemistry. Artificial intelligence processes thousands of variables, helping winemakers make informed decisions about harvest timing, fermentation parameters, aging protocols. Precision viticulture uses satellite imagery and soil sensors to map vineyard variations. GPS-guided tractors apply fertilizer and water with surgical precision, treating each vine according to its individual needs. These technologies help producers improve quality while reducing environmental impact. Some embrace these advances enthusiastically, seeing science as a tool to express terroir more clearly, to reduce flaws that mask a wine's true character. Others worry that technology could homogenize wine, removing the happy accidents that create uniqueness. In tasting rooms, consumers debate whether wines made with modern techniques taste better than traditional ones, whether precision improves wine or removes its soul. The ancient tension between art and science continues in new forms. Meanwhile, researchers continue their work, unraveling mysteries that have puzzled winemakers for millennia, adding scientific understanding to intuitive knowledge, expanding possibilities for future generations of wine lovers. Wander through a vineyard in northern England, where sparkling wine grapes ripen under skies that once seemed too cool for viticulture. Climate change has shifted the boundaries of where wine can be made, creating opportunities in unexpected places. The chalk downs of southern England now provide ideal conditions for champagne-style sparkling wines. The same geological formations that create great wine in Champagne extend under the English Channel. Now, warming temperatures make these English sites viable. Tasmania discovers its potential for cool climate varieties. Producers plant Pinot Noir on hillsides where sheep once grazed. The island's maritime climate creates ideal conditions for elegant, age-worthy wines. Sommeliers in London and New York take notice. In Canada, ice wine producers face challenges as winters become less predictable. The extreme cold needed for this dessert wine becomes increasingly rare. Some producers move operations further north following the cold. Others experiment with artificial freezing techniques. Mountain vineyards gain altitude as valleys become too warm. Producers in Argentina plant at heights that would have been impossible decades ago. The thin air and intense sunlight create unique growing conditions, wines with distinctive character. Traditional regions adapt too. Bordeaux producers experiment with grape varieties from warmer climates. Portuguese grapes that might thrive in tomorrow's Bordeaux climate. Chianti producers move to higher elevations, seeking cooler temperatures for their Sangiovese. The wine map redraws itself slowly. New regions emerge while established ones transform. Consumer expectations shift as familiar wines change character. The global wine industry navigates uncharted territory, using both ancient wisdom and modern technology. In this changing world, wine continues to express place, even as places themselves evolve. The eternal relationship between vine and site continues, adapted to new realities. Step into the sustainable vineyard at dawn, where solar panels glisten with dew between the vine rows. This is where wine production meets environmental consciousness, where ancient agriculture adapts to modern ecological challenges. Cover crops grow between the vines, their roots preventing erosion, their flowers feeding beneficial insects. When mowed, they decompose to enrich the soil, creating natural fertilizer that reduces the need for chemical inputs. The vineyard becomes a complete ecosystem. Sheep graze among the vines during winter, their hooves naturally aerating the soil, their droppings providing organic fertilizer. This partnership between animals and agriculture dates back centuries, now enhanced by scientific understanding of soil biology. Precision irrigation systems deliver exactly the water each vine needs. Sensors monitor soil moisture. Weather data predicts plant water requirements. Every drop is used efficiently, protecting precious water resources while optimizing grape quality. Biodiversity flourishes in managed wildland corridors. Hawks hunt rodents that might damage vines. Native plants provide habitat for beneficial insects. Wetlands filter runoff water naturally. These practices improve wine quality while protecting the environment. Carbon footprint reduction becomes a priority. Solar power runs equipment. Electric tractors replace diesel engines. Lighter glass bottles reduce transportation emissions. Some producers achieve carbon neutrality. Others reach carbon negative status. Organic and biodynamic farming methods gain popularity. Producers eliminate synthetic pesticides and fertilizers. Some follow lunar calendars for planting and harvesting. While critics debate the science, consumers increasingly support these approaches. In the cellar, gravity flow systems reduce energy use. Natural cooling systems replace refrigeration. Ancient techniques prove surprisingly efficient when combined with modern understanding. The sustainable vineyard demonstrates that environmental stewardship and wine quality can enhance each other, that the future of wine depends on protecting the natural systems that make great wine possible. Journey now to the blending room, where the true artistry of winemaking reveals itself. Dozens of small glasses hold wines from different vineyard blocks, different fermentation tanks, different aging vessels. Each represents a possibility, a component in the final blend. The winemaker's palate becomes a precision instrument, trained through years of tasting, capable of detecting subtle differences, imagining how components will interact, evolve, improve each other. She sips thoughtfully, makes notes, begins the delicate work of composition. Bordeaux-style blends combine Cabernet Sauvignon structure with Merlot's softness, Petit Verdot's intensity with Cabernet Franc's elegance. Each variety contributes specific characteristics. Like musicians in an orchestra, each playing its part in the larger symphony. Champagne blending reaches even greater complexity. Base wines from different vineyard sites, different grape varieties, different harvest years. The chef de cave combines hundreds of components, creating consistent house style year after year, despite vintage variations. Mathematical precision guides the process, but intuition makes the final decisions. Experience teaches which combinations work, which ratios create harmony. No formula can replace the human palate's ability to imagine the finished wine. Trial blends age in small barrels, allowing the winemaker to observe how components integrate over time. Some combinations that seem promising initially fall apart. Others improve dramatically, revealing unexpected synergies. The final blend represents compromise and vision, balancing current drinkability with aging potential, managing production costs while maximizing quality. Each decision affects the wine's character, its market positioning, its future reputation. In the finished wine, individual components disappear into something greater than the sum of its parts. The blender's skill creates unity from diversity, harmony from potential discord, art from science. Enter the tasting room, where Master Sommelier James Parker evaluates the new vintage. His trained senses detect nuances that escape casual drinkers. Years of study and practice have refined his ability to analyze wine systematically, to communicate its qualities precisely. He begins with visual examination, holding the glass against white paper, observing color intensity and clarity. Ruby red suggests youth. Brick hues indicate age. Tiny bubbles clinging to the glass might reveal residual sugar or recent bottling. The first swirl releases aromatic compounds. His nose detects primary fruit flavors, secondary fermentation notes, tertiary aging characteristics. Black cherry and cassis from the grapes, toast and vanilla from oak aging, leather and earth from bottle development. The first sip covers his entire palate. Sweet receptors on the tongue tip, acid sensors along the sides, bitterness at the back. Tannins create texture. Alcohol provides body. The wine's structure reveals itself through careful attention. Professional tasting requires objectivity, separating personal preference from quality assessment. Technical flaws like excessive volatile acidity or cork taint must be identified. Stylistic choices like oak influence or alcohol level must be evaluated in context. Blind tasting challenges even experienced professionals. Without label information, tasters must identify grape variety, region of origin, vintage year, quality level, using only sensory evidence. The exercise trains palate memory, builds pattern recognition. Wine scores attempt to quantify quality, but critics debate their value. Numbers simplify complex experiences, risk reducing wine appreciation to mere point counting. Yet scores help consumers navigate overwhelming choices, provide quality benchmarks. In the end, wine evaluation remains deeply personal. Professional training enhances appreciation, but doesn't dictate preference. The sommelier's expertise guides understanding, but individual palate determines enjoyment. Each taster brings unique sensitivity, personal history, cultural background to the experience. Rest now beside ancient vines heavy with ripe grapes. The harvest moon rises over hills that have known wine for thousands of years. You can smell the sweet promise of fermentation beginning in nearby cellars. Hear the soft sounds of celebration as another vintage begins. From those first clay vessels in ancient Georgia, wine has carried human stories across continents and centuries. It has blessed religious ceremonies, fueled economies, inspired artists, connected communities. Each glass holds not just fermented grapes, but the accumulated wisdom of generations. The science grows ever more sophisticated. DNA sequencing, satellite imaging, precision fermentation. Yet the essential mystery remains. How simple fruit transforms into something so complex, so capable of expressing place and time, so integral to human culture. Climate changes, technology advances, new regions emerge, but certain truths endure. Wine reflects the land that births it, the hands that tend it, the traditions that shape it. It connects us to the earth beneath our feet, to the seasons that govern all agriculture, to the patient rhythms of growth and harvest. In cellars around the world, wines sleep in darkness, slowly evolving, preparing to offer their gifts to future generations. Some will be opened young and fresh. Others will age for decades, developing complexity that rewards patience. The ancient cycle continues, pruning and planting, growing and harvesting, crushing and fermenting, aging and blending. Each step guided by accumulated knowledge, but also by intuition, by respect for natural processes that cannot be forced. Let yourself drift now, like wine aging gently in oak, knowing that tomorrow's harvest will bring new stories, new possibilities, new connections between earth and humanity. The vines rest under starlight, and so can you.